Content warning. The following video contains material that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the hit list. You can't escape. Your face on the news. Don't mess with fate. Locked up in prison. Wood chipper running hot. Police on a mission. Hope you don't get caught. Silver bracelets tight. Get arrested tonight. In this endless fight. Can't hide from the light. Lies and deception, caught in the storm. Future in question, nowhere left to run. Silver bracelets tight, get arrested tonight. In this endless fight, can't hide from the light. The choices you made, heading one way. No turning back, this price to pay. Oh. Lies and deception, caught in the storm. Future in question, nowhere left to run. Silver bracelets tight, get arrested tonight. In this endless fight, can't hide from the light. The choices you made, heading one way. No turning back, this price to pay. Oh yeah, no, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. The choices you made, heading one way. No turning back, this price to pay. Oh. Whoa, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just when you thought you could turn your back and walk away, the dark cloud of human indignity follows you. You have no choice but to turn and look it in the eye. It's the sex offender hit list.
He's already accused of sexually abusing two former students. Today, retired Bayshore teacher Thomas Bernagozzi was back in court to face child pornography charges. Prosecutors say investigators seized tens of thousands of, quote, lewd and indecent photos and negatives during a search of Bernagozzi's home in Babylon last December. According to prosecutors, the images of his former male students were cataloged by name, age, date, and location, and most were stored in his bedroom. The 75-year-old retired Bayshore teacher pleaded not guilty to 5 felony counts of possessing a sexual performance by a child. As Newsday has reported, Bernagozzi has already pleaded not guilty to charges of sodomy and sexual conduct against a child involving 2 former students. Prosecutors say the new indictment involves a third former student, but statutes of limitations prevented prosecutors from bringing additional charges of abuse against Bryden in connection with that student. Bryden had been free on $600,000 bond, but today he was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs after the judge reset his bail to $1 million cash. For Newsday TV, I'm Virginia Huey.
A former school teacher from Bell Elementary here in El Paso was convicted on federal charges that included possessing child porn.
And officials with Homeland Security Investigations El Paso made the announcement today, adding that the victim was under 12 years old. Tyann Marshburn is live with more.
HSI says that on June 6, 2023, they received a tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The tip said that a user had uploaded child abuse material. HSI identified the user as Brian Troy Nunez. After getting a search warrant for his residence, they found more child sexual abuse material in his phone and computer. This footage provided by HSI shows the moment Nunez was arrested. Nunez faces 2 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor and 1 count of possession of child pornography. HSI urges anyone else who may be a victim to contact them. Special Agent Jason Stevens speaks about Nunez's sentencing.
Unfortunately, today, he did receive a sentence of 144 months for doing that. Mr. Nunez was a teacher at what was Bell Elementary School back in that time, and he had began grooming that victim at approximately the 5th grade.
And coming up on ABC 7 after the presidential debate, El Paso District Attorney Bill Hicks explains why the state of Texas is taking part in a joint prosecution with the federal government. Reporting live, Tyann Marshburn, ABC 7.
Thank you for that update, Tyann.
New this morning, a Douglas County high school teacher accused of sexually assaulting a child is no longer in jail. James Toomer was being held on $20,000 bond. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office did not share details about the investigation. They are asking anyone with more info or any additional victims, though, to come forward.
Hi, we're looking for Rebecca.
Yeah, it's me.
Yeah, we're going to come in for a second. I'm not sure how much you know what's going on, but my colleague's just got something that she needs to say to you.
So obviously, given what's happened, I know you've been sent home from school today. So you are under arrest at the moment on suspicion of sexual activity with a child. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention one question, something which you later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
How's it gone so far since?
So the necessity for the arrest is obviously to protect the vulnerable and for prompt and effective investigation. So obviously you are under caution. You will be given obviously your chance to say everything at the station, but obviously for the time being you're under arrest.
Mr. Foden, unfortunately I need to arrest you on suspicion of sexual touching of a child and sexual communications with a child.
Right.
You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention one question, something which you later rely on in court. Okay. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
Former Gridley teacher Michelle Solis was back in Butte County Superior Court this afternoon for sentencing. She's been convicted of being in a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old student. The North States News' Hannah Gutierrez was in the courtroom, and she's in Chico now with what happened. Hannah.
Thank you, Mike. After delays in the case, a judge sentenced Michelle Solis to 4 years in state prison. Solis was arrested on November 2023 after the Gridley Police Department and Butte County District Attorney's Office discovered her sexual relationship with an 8th grade student in the Gridley Unified School District. The district attorney says Solis admitted to having sex with the middle school student in April. She received the maximum sentence from that admission today, 4 years in state prison. In addition, Solis must register as a sex offender for 10 years and pay restitution to the victim. She is also legally not allowed to go near the middle schooler for the next 10 years.
The manner in which the crime was carried out demonstrated criminal sophistication in that the defendant groomed the victim in order to get the victim in a situation for sexual contact. The court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea, and it is the judgment of this court that the defendant is guilty of that offense.
Community members who attended the sentencing used words such as dumbfounded, horrified, and manipulated by Solis's actions, saying she hurt their small Gridley community. But many in court say they're happy with the sentence and hope to rebuild the trust and safety of school children in the district. Solis has 60 days to appeal the sentence from today's date. For now, reporting live in Orville, Hannah Gutierrez, North States News.
A police officer puts handcuffs on Jeffrey Clayton, a former Duval County teacher, as he begins his decade-long prison sentence for his crimes against a 16-year-old student. Before learning his sentence, Clayton took the stand to apologize.
I am so sorry for the pain and damage I have caused you. If you were wondering why this would happen to you, and what you did to deserve this, the answer is nothing.
There were so many people there to see Jeffrey Clayton be sentenced, the court had to open overflow seating for everyone. Clayton admitted he illegally and inappropriately had contact with a student he was giving voice lessons to. He was the vocal director at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts for more than 2 decades.
Clayton faced between nearly 3 years and 40 years in prison, but the judge decided that he would serve 10 years, followed by 3 years probation. Clayton is 66, so he'll be 76 when he's released from prison. News4 Jax reporter Ann Maxwell has been following the case since his arrest 15 months ago. And Ann, you were there in the courtroom when that sentence came down.
Yeah, it was emotional, and just the amount of people who came out for this, it shows just how important this moment was for so many in the Douglas Anderson community. Alumni I talked to here told me they feel this sentence is just. Jeffrey Clayton left the courtroom in handcuffs. The victim told the court the grooming and abuse she experienced at Clayton's hands has left her isolated, withdrawn, and distrustful. She believes she'll be recovering for the rest of her life.
He prayed with me in his office, comforted me when I cried, and said he wanted to be like a father to me. But what began as kind words and seemingly innocent touches soon became proclamations of lust and lingering hands who did not ask him to be.
Clayton pleaded guilty after being caught discussing kissing the victim in a phone call between the two that police recorded.
One day, I'm thinking, I just want to survive this. And then the next day, I just want to kiss you again.
A detective testified that phone records revealed late-night FaceTime calls between the 16-year-old and her 65-year-old teacher, as well as more than 1,000 text messages. Clayton's plea agreement allowed 7 additional female Douglas Anderson students to testify at sentencing, in exchange for the state agreeing not to bring additional charges against Clayton related to his time at DA. 3 of them ended up addressing the court. The first cried as she spoke about the devastating impacts of being groomed and touched by Clayton. The second said Clayton touched her inappropriately in the guise of instruction.
Forge being chosen made me feel so special. I feared that he would touch my lower stomach and chest or violently pull my hair again.
The third described Clayton as emotionally abusive in the classroom. At the beginning of the hearing, he apologized to the victim, her family, his students and colleagues, but he only lost composure when speaking about his family.
I am deeply sorrowful and apologize to all students from DA that came in contact with me and my teaching. All I can see are the shocked and devastated faces of doubt, horror, and inner suffering.
No witnesses spoke in his support in court, although the defense pointed to 148 pages of letters, notes, and cards Clayton received over 20 years praising him as an educator, as well as other character letters from former DA students and parents. Judge Tatiana Salvador said she read every page, but working against Clayton was his position as a teacher, the creepy controlled call, and a personnel file that showed he had been warned multiple times against touching students inappropriately.
You knew better.
Clayton has denied that he did anything criminal to students other than the one victim in this case. Now the question for many DA alumni is, how do we make sure other students are protected going forward? Reporting live downtown, Ann Maxwell, Channel 4, the local station.
Matthew Schulz masked up and tight-lipped at his first court appearance at Mount Barker.
Mr Schulz, what have you got to say about the allegations against you?
Police swooped on the 45-year-old father of two in May, charging him with 1 count of sexual abuse of a child and 2 of engaging in sexual intercourse with a person without their consent between 2011 and 2012. Staff at Trinity College moved quickly too. Schulz, who'd been employed there for almost 2 years, was immediately suspended and banned from entering the grounds. In a letter sent to parents and provided to 7 News, the principal reiterated the alleged offences occurred while he was employed at another school over a decade ago, and the charges do not relate to any student currently or previously enrolled at Trinity College. In a staff profile, Schulz said he taught English and humanities. His most successful achievement was becoming a father, and he boasted about being a fringe performer and good friends with international rock star Mike Patton.
Schulz's lawyer mounted a detailed argument to keep his client's name out of the media to prevent hardship to his children and stepchildren, but the magistrate refused.
Sexual abuse of a child carries a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. Schulz remains on bail until his next court date in Adelaide in November. Deanna Williams, 7 News.
A former music teacher at Grace Christian School faces charges for having an inappropriate relationship with a 16-year-old student, resulting in the student getting pregnant. Fox 13's Evan Moon brings us the details of how this relationship came forward.
This has been going on for a while. Their relationship started back in 2022 when the student was just 16 years old. Now, 2 years later, she's pregnant, and as of yesterday, he is in jail. The school is commenting on this case today. 26-year-old Denzel Proctor, a former teacher at Grace Christian School, faces charges for having sex with a minor, a student at the school. Detectives were notified last week of a sexual battery involving the now 18-year-old victim. The teen is pregnant after their 2-year relationship. The school's Facebook page posted this picture in 2020, introducing him as their new music teacher, adding he is an alumnus of the school. Proctor resigned in December and after the allegations were reported to the Department of Children and Families by the school. Grace Christian sending Fox 13 a statement saying, quote, "We are deeply saddened to hear of this conduct by a former staff member. Grace Christian School has a strict policy to report all cases of suspected abuse immediately. Mr. Proctor resigned abruptly in late December of 2023. The suspicion of abuse was reported by the school administrator on December 26th. The student denied the alleged abuse then and for the remainder of the school year. The Crisis Center of Tampa Bay tells me younger victims will often deny the abuse.
Even though the teen is being exploited, they still are having feelings, so they're protecting that person. There may also be some fear in terms of, am I going to get in trouble? Is the person that I care about going to hate me now because of this?
The teen victim told police they had sex on and off campus. The Crisis Center says there are things parents and other teachers can look out for to spot abuse.
If the young person is getting secretive, maybe just in terms of who they're spending time with, maybe they spend a lot of time away from home and they're not communicating clearly in terms of what they're doing, who they're with, and also with their devices as well.
Now, Proctor faces 5 counts of sexual battery and unlawful sex with a minor, but the sheriff's office says the investigation is still ongoing. In Tampa, Evan Moon, Fox 13 News.
Two former teachers face serious charges involving students. A Gordon County grand jury has indicted Rayleigh Greason and Brooklyn Schuler on charges related to having sex with students. The two were reportedly employed by the City of Calhoun School District at the time. The indictment states between October 2021 and January 22, Greason had sex with two male students and Schuler had sex with one. The indictment charges both women with counts of sexual contact by employee or agent in the first degree.
Tonight, a former Olathe Schools educator behind bars. He faces 2 felonies, including indecent liberties with a child. Good evening. I'm Bria Love.
And I'm John Holt. 42-year-old Jason Barrett worked 2 separate stints as a special education para, spanning almost 2 decades. And there are concerns this wasn't an isolated incident. There could be other victims. Fox 4's Malik Jackson live at the Johnson County Courthouse. He just spoke to District Attorney Steve Howe. Malik, what else are you learning from the DA?
Yeah, John and Bria, the district attorney here, Steve Howe, as you mentioned, telling us that his office believes that there are more victims in this case. We're referring to Jason Barrett, who's facing these 2 felony counts, one for unlawful touching of a minor and another for providing alcohol to a minor. These incidents stem back to September of last year. We reached out to the Olathe School District. They tell Fox 4 that this man was not employed with them at that time, but stopped his employment there as of May of 2023. I want you to take a look at your screen. This is him, Jason Barrett, currently behind bars, being held on a $250,000 bond. All of this coming out today. The DA assured us that he was not in any schools working or otherwise over the course of their investigation. He also said the district let Barrett go after it was, quote, presented information about him in May. While prosecutors haven't told us a specific school that he worked at, we know he was a para at either an Olathe middle or high school. This just the latest example of a teacher or some sort of educator having inappropriate contact with minors. Howe says the rise over the last 5 years is a significant one.
Well, unfortunately, we've had a run of members of education having inappropriate relationships with minors. These are the types of cases that energizes us because many of these times, these are troubled youth that are being victimized, or kids are too young to understand what's going on, and we have a special duty to protect those who can't protect themselves.
Again, these alleged crimes date back to September of last year. And we asked the district attorney here in Johnson County, why are we seeing more of these cases? He says technology plays a role in that, and education, not only for our educators around these topics, but also the students that oftentimes find themselves being preyed on as to why these people like this, are starting to be found and charged with the crimes that they now face, as Jason Barrett now faces these 2 felony counts. John?
Malik, at the top, you mentioned the possibility of more victims. What have you learned about that?
Yeah, the district attorney telling us that they have indications that there are more victims out there, that he had other inappropriate behaviors with other minors. If that is you, they urge you to reach out to the Olathe Police Department's investigations unit. That number is on your screen. We will also attach that to this story on fox4kc.com. In Johnson County, I'm Malik Jackson, Fox 4. Working for you.
And new at 5, a Delhi Township man and now former teacher is in jail on child pornography charges, accused of posting inappropriate content online.
So Brittany Harry has been following this story all day and shares what court documents reveal about that case.
Right now, Mark Alter is behind bars in Butler County, charged with distributing and possessing child porn. Court documents show the 44-year-old teacher had been active on the website since about 2021. Alter allegedly made at least 262 posts, with his age of attraction being children 5 to 12 years old, according to court records. The unidentified website describes itself as a, quote, child pornography community that exists to serve the pedophile community around the globe. Author allegedly made posts of what appeared to be minors engaged in sexual explicit conduct, according to court records. Court records say a review of a 2019 Facebook post identified Author as a fitness education teacher. The Oak Hill School District confirmed Author was hired in 2019. He is now no longer on the district's website. On Friday, investigators went to Author's Delhi Township home looking for him, but he wasn't there. So they pinged his cell phone, which showed he was in Columbus, according to court records. That's where FBI agents caught up with Author and a minor female at a local hotel. He was arrested, but not before attempting to shut the door on investigators. On the same day of his arrest, FBI agents executed a search warrant of Author's home. Court records show FBI agents discovered devices that showed inappropriate content.
And that was Brittany Harry reporting. Now, Author is due in federal court tomorrow. We'll, of course, let you know what happens.
Also new at 5, a judge has sentenced the former Oahu public school teacher to 30 years in prison for sexually assaulting a student. 35-year-old Alden Bunag pleaded guilty in March to the continuous sex assault of a minor under 14 and promoting child abuse. Bunag worked as a substitute teacher at Pearl City High School and as a part-time temporary teacher at Ilima Intermediate School. He's already serving a 17-year sentence in federal prison for producing child pornography. His state and federal sentences will be served concurrently.
The NMDOJ special agents have arrested a former Las Vegas teacher accused of sexually assaulting a student. Leonard Romero is charged with 5 counts of criminal sexual penetration of a minor, child solicitation, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The NMDOJ says the allegations first surfaced 2.5 years ago when a Memorial Middle School employee overheard students talking about Romero's relationship with the student. Las Vegas police launched an investigation and the student came forward about what happened.
The end tonight's crime report of a Lafourche Parish teacher is sentenced to 40 years in prison after he was convicted of sexually abusing a student. In May, a jury found former art teacher Ralph Sheremy Jr. guilty of molestation and sexual battery involving a juvenile under the age of 13. Additional charges are pending against Sheremy in connection to another victim.
A disturbing story out of Buckeye tonight, where a former teacher is facing kidnapping charges after allegedly luring a 12-year-old student to his Phoenix home. 36-year-old Bryden Barnett is accused of having inappropriate online conversations with a student while he was teaching at Verrado Middle School. Buckeye police later learned the student was alone with Barnett at his home on at least 3 occasions. Barnett was arrested July 10th and is facing charges of luring a minor and kidnapping.
New at 10,
Tonight, a former teacher and Boy Scout leader is behind bars after being convicted of sexually abusing children in schools and Boy Scout camps for nearly 2 decades. A judge in Larimer County sentenced Robert Denise to 16 years in prison today. Your Northern Colorado reporter Dylan Thomas was in the courtroom today for that sentencing and spoke with prosecutors about why this case was so important even decades after the abuse.
Robert Denise was a predator.
For 17 years, Robert Denise, a former middle school teacher and Boy Scout leader, sexually abused teenage boys. And the world never knew until one courageous man came forward with his story from decades ago.
This was like over a 20-year-old case.
After one shared his story, multiple others came forward with similar stories.
And we did get 4 more victims who did come forward. These 5 victims who came forward were super brave. And they did the right thing.
Due to the crimes they were victims of, CBS Colorado has agreed not to share the identities of these victims. But in court Thursday, they told the judge of how Robert Denise sexually abused them either in private rooms in Cache La Poudre Middle School or at Ben de la Tour Scouting Ranch. Some were even sexually abused in libraries, while others were abused in tents or even homes. Stories which, even decades later, brought these men to tears as they recounted.
We call it kind of re-victimization sometimes, so that they have to go back through what happened.
When it comes to sexual abuse of a child, there are not statutes of limitation. Captain Bobby Mall with the Larimer County Sheriff's Office said these men showed courage by coming forward.
95% of males that are victims do not report a crime.
Mall said he personally believes Denise was only sentenced for the crimes that they know about and not all the crimes that he committed.
It's sad to say, but you know it's probably not an isolated event. Yes, I do believe that there probably are other victims out there who chose not to come forward.
In Fort Collins, Dylan Thomas covering Colorado First.
Dylan, thank you.
A former Hancock County teacher now is under arrest tonight, accused of providing drugs and alcohol to students over a period of months. The Greenfield police arrested 45-year-old Brock Wedgeworth this morning. He previously worked for the Mount Vernon School Corporation and also the New Pal School Corporation. Investigators say he provided drugs and alcohol to students that he met through those jobs. He now is facing 4 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
And Anthony, the former Douglas Anderson School of the Arts teacher who kissed and inappropriately touched a 16-year-old student, will spend 10 years in prison. A judge sentencing Jeffrey Clayton today after hours of emotional testimony.
And here's 3 things to know today. The maximum sentence for Clayton's charges would have been 40 years in prison. State prosecutors asked the judge to sentence him to 15 years.
As part of Clayton's plea agreement, he will not be charged for any additional claims of abuse from previous students.
But 3 former students were allowed to read impact statements during the hearing in which they described years of emotional and physical abuse by Clayton. The judge said she did not consider those statements as part of her decision in today's sentencing.
We have live team coverage on the sentencing. Renata DiGregorio is on your side, breaking down a timeline of the events leading up to Clayton's arrest and its impacts on the school district. And later in our newscast, Jeannie Blaylock has that exclusive interview with Jeffrey Clayton. But first, Rich Donnelly joins us live tonight outside the Duval County Courthouse. He was in the courtroom today when the judge handed the sentence down. And Rich, I know today's testimony was very difficult to hear.
Heather, that's correct. Very emotional testimony from 4 former students of Jeffrey Clayton's at Douglas Anderson, many of them breaking down in tears as they read statements about the pain that he caused them. Clayton will go to prison for 10 years for his actions against only one of those students. Today in court, his recorded phone call with that student was played out loud. The judge said that she felt, quote, dirty listening to a 65-year-old man talk to a high school girl in the way that Clayton did on that call. Jeffrey Clayton was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs. He will go to prison for 10 years, followed by 3 years of probation. Prior to being sentenced, the prosecution played a 30-minute phone call between Clayton and one of his former students, where Clayton describes the teenage girl as, quote, a phenomenal kisser.
A phenomenal kisser, and I certainly would enjoy more of those, if I can say that. But yet there's just something about the way you're just so sweet, and so you let go. You know what I mean? There's no restraint.
3 other former students also made statements in court today. Clayton is not charged with any crimes related to them and maintains his innocence. However, they all said his actions will affect them for the rest of their lives.
But reflecting on my time at the school and the literal years of abuse I suffered at the hands of this man has caused me not only to doubt my abilities, but also to lose all trust in adult men, especially ones in the performance industry.
Jack Leon is a former student of Jeffrey Clayton and became a teacher at Douglas Anderson and worked alongside Clayton. He also taught some of the women who testified in court and said it was painful to hear their experiences.
It was hard. I actually was a teacher for some of these kids. So seeing them up there and watching them stand up and be brave and share their stories and share what they saw and what they heard, it was a lot.
Jeffrey Clayton was sentenced in all 4 of his charges, but those sentences will run concurrently, and that's why he will spend the next 10 years in prison. Reporting live outside of the Duval County Courthouse, Rich Donnelly, First Coast News, on your side.
Rich, thank you. And since Clayton's arrest, 4 additional teachers have been removed from the classroom at Douglas Anderson for an inappropriate conduct. Now, that led to concerns from the State Board of Education about student safety at that school. Interim Superintendent Dr. Dana Krisnar responded to those concerns with steps the school district plans to roll out next school year to help protect students. Some of the protocols include hiring more people to investigate alleged misconduct and improvements in staff training and student awareness. And during
A former teacher at Whittier Middle School is charged with more improper actions involving juveniles. According to the South Dakota Attorney's Office, Justin Preschel has been indicted by a federal grand jury on 16 child porn-related charges. Now, he was previously charged with solicitation of a 13-year-old in March. Preschel's contract as social studies teacher was terminated on April 8th, according to school board minutes. It was effective on March 31st. Reports say Preschel was employed as a teacher at the time of many of the charged offenses.
Tonight, people are still just finding out about the arrest of a Wilcox County teacher on child sex charges. 37-year-old Lorenzo Denard was charged with 77 counts of sexual exploitation of children. Megan Western spent the day learning more about the case. She talked with an expert about warning signs that a teacher, coach, or someone else in authority may be targeting your child.
I spent the day out in Wilcox County, and I actually stopped by the Board of Education, but I was told that since Denard is a former educator that they weren't going to comment. But I did learn from the GBI that only one student was involved. Lorenzo Denard hasn't worked for Wilcox County Schools since 2023, but during his time, he served as a paraprofessional and a coach. Although he signed an employee handbook that condemned sexual harassment, investigators believed he failed to comply, landing himself with 81 charges.
It's a crime problem that fluctuates up and down. It's really a crime of opportunity in a lot of cases.
Brian Osden with the FBI Atlanta Division says child exploitation victims often build relationships with their abusers unknowingly.
It doesn't indicate poor parenting. It doesn't indicate that the child has anything really that's been negative in their life.
But he says as parents, there are signs you can look out for.
Unexplained gifts, which lead to, maybe missing school, changes of behavior. They start using different language.
Most importantly, have open communication, especially about sextortion, where abusers threaten to share personal images or videos, a growing Georgia issue.
Let them know that if they do get victimized, they can come to their parents.
He says those conversations can be hard for either parent or child, but they can be life-saving.
Just being honest with them, talking to them about it.
As for Denard, we also were able to confirm that he most recently worked with the Irwin County School District. He was a track coach and a special education teacher with them. They tell us that they just released him from his duties earlier this week. In Wilcox County, Megan Western, 13 WMAZ News.
Denard is out of jail on bond. Investigators say right now all of the charges, as Megan said, involve one student. Anyone with more information can contact the GBI Regional Investigative Office in Perry at 478-987-4545.
The nightmares, the trauma, it's just been absolutely horrific.
Consideration, the innocence that's been stolen from these children.
Filled with emotion, mothers pleaded for their daughter's alleged child molester, Evergreen Elementary teacher Jordan Henderson, to be held behind bars back in April. Henderson was charged with 9 counts of child molestation after a student spoke out alleging he'd been rubbing their thighs, backs, behinds, and genitals over their clothes every other day for nearly 2 school years while they were in 4th and 5th grade.
We can't drive past the school building without her hiding her eyes.
He posted bail that same day and was ordered to be on electronic home monitoring. Part of his conditional release made it very clear he was to have no contact with children except his own and could not attend church.
Unfortunately, predators who prey on children often don't just stop with one.
Just 3 weeks later, a neighbor called Pierce County deputies saying Henderson was violating those conditions. He was hosting gatherings at his home with children present. He was heard saying, "Cute little skirt," to a 4 to 5-year-old girl walking towards his home. Bail was increased to $750,000.
It's part of the grooming process that we see time and time again. And
Kevin Hastings, an attorney representing victims and their families, says Henderson used his position of power and trust to target, groom, and ultimately sexually assault his students in his classroom. He says a 4th child is now accusing Henderson.
Can we anticipate even more victims to come forward?
it wouldn't surprise me.
Following this latest victim, I did reach out to the school district, who says this remains a police matter. In the meantime, Henderson does remain on paid administrative leave. He's expected to be here in court tomorrow morning. Of course, we'll keep you posted as we continue to learn more. In Pierce County, Alejandra Guzman, Fox 13 News.
Well, a former Wilcox County teacher and coach is charged with 77 counts of sexual exploitation of children. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation arrested 34-year-old Lorenzo Denard after the Wilcox County Sheriff's Office asked it to investigate allegations that he had an inappropriate relationship with a former student. In addition to the 77 counts, Denard is also charged with 3 counts of electronically furnishing obscene material to a minor and 1 count of improper sexual contact by an employee.
A panel of appeal judges agreed the appropriate remedy was to toss the conviction and enter an acquittal. Dooling had a judge-alone trial 2 years ago on allegations dating back to the 80s. A former student accused him of sexually touching and later sexually assaulting her from the time she was an elementary school student until she was a young adult. The judge found Dooling not guilty on 4 of 5 charges because the complainant's testimony was unreliable. However, he found Dooling guilty on 1 count of sexual assault, saying the complainant's testimony in that case was accurate and compelling. The appeal court, however, said that was an issue. It ruled the trial judge couldn't find deep problems with the complainant's testimony, but suddenly find her trustworthy in one circumstance. The appeal judges said a new trial for Dooling was not appropriate. Jackie Hong, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Western North Carolina, a former teacher has been found guilty of taking indecent liberties with a student. The teacher, John Taylor, who's from the upstate, was arrested in November of 2022. Deputies say he inappropriately touched one of his students. And security footage from the school shows the victim running out of his classroom at the time of the reported assault. Now, the district attorney says that Taylor tried to convince the jury he was too drunk to intend to commit the crime. Well, today he was found guilty, and Taylor was sentenced to probation and has to register as a sex offender.
Well, new tonight, we're learning new details on the Pacific Collegiate School teacher charged with the attempted statutory rape of one of his students. Trung Lai pleading not guilty to all charges on Wednesday. Santa Cruz police say Lai was grooming the 17-year-old over the past few months. He was arrested on June 28 after arranging to meet the student off campus to, quote, engage in lewd acts. Lai is expected back in court on August 6.
This report from Palm Beach County Schools Police details an incident that allegedly took place here at Osceola Creek Middle School back in May between the teacher and an 8th grade student.
Some of those details too upsetting to broadcast, but Palm Beach School District Police say they were enough to charge Keith Knight with molesting a victim 12 to 16 years of age and soliciting lewd conduct as an authority figure. According to the report, the 25-year-old exceptional students education teacher pushed an 8th grade girl against a wall in the school courtyard and touched her as she attempted to push Knight away. The report goes on to say Knight tried to kiss her twice. Records also point to an alleged pattern of disturbing behavior. The police report references a separate incident involving the victim's friend and says Knight is a suspect in another case involving a 13-year-old female student with similar allegations. And that Knight was also suspected in 2 additional investigations involving the unwanted touching of female students. I've requested those reports from the school district to look for clues as to why Knight was still allowed to teach despite those ongoing investigations. Palm Beach Schools telling me they're unable to answer my questions about personnel, but they did share this email sent to Osceola Creek parents saying Knight will not be returning to our school. Please understand that we cannot provide any further details at this time because there is an open administrative investigation, the email says. The school district takes this matter very seriously, and the safety and well-being of our students remains our highest priority. Knight does not have an attorney listed in court records. In his interview with police, he denied having physical contact with the student while she was in his classroom and could not explain why she would accuse him of inappropriate conduct.
Knight is currently in jail. He's being held on a $15,000 bond. He's been ordered by the judge not to have any contact with anyone under the age of 18 or the school. He is also ordered to stay off of social media. In Loxahatchee, I'm Jamie Ostroff, WPTV News Channel 5.
A New Jersey teacher has been arrested for having a sexual relationship with a middle school student. 43-year-old Allison Haverman-Niedrich of Freehold Intermediate School was charged with 1 count of first-degree aggravated sexual assault and 1 charge of second-degree endangering the welfare of a child. According to an investigation, the inappropriate relationship between this teacher and a student began earlier this year. This teacher was arrested without incident earlier this week and is awaiting her first court appearance.
A former Hamilton County teacher accused of sexually abusing children was in court today. The court heard from parents of the alleged victims. Former Wallace A. Smith Elementary's teacher Dwayne Sanders faces more than a dozen charges. Today's hearing centered around the recorded testimony of alleged victims and if they are admissible in his upcoming trial. Yesterday, the court heard those recorded interviews from children, and today parents took the stand to talk about the alleged abuse. One mother told the court what her son said after he was interviewed in this case.
When you ask him what is the Good Boys Club, what did he say or how did he act?
It's like this thing where we sit on Mr. Sanders' lap and like people get to do it for different things, like math or reading or whatever, and he pulls down my pants.
New tonight, a Palm Beach County elementary school teacher has been arrested, accused of trying to meet up with a teenager off campus for sex. A local group, 561 Predator Catcher, helped Delray Beach police make the arrest a week ago today. According to the arrest report, 34-year-old Joshua Hablo was trying to meet up with a 14-year-old boy at a Walmart in Delray Beach. The school district of Palm Beach County confirmed that Hablo was an instructional staff member at Barton Elementary School, which is in Lake Worth Beach. Following his arrest, he is no longer employed by the school district.
A Baltimore City school teacher is behind bars. He's accused of having sex with a 12-year-old girl who went missing last month. Lewis Lowry is facing second-degree rape charges. Charging documents show U.S. Marshals found the girl inside of the Mervo High School teacher's apartment. It is the same complex the Baltimore County girl went missing from. Now, investigators identified Lowry and found the 12-year-old through phone records. Those documents show the girl told Lowry she was 22 years old. Those charging documents do not state that any of the alleged crimes took place in or involved anyone associated with Baltimore City schools.
He obviously knew that they were coming after him, so he fled the area.
35-year-old Derek Detweiler, a counselor at Redmond High School, now facing felony charges for sexual misconduct with a minor. Redmond police say the 17-year-old victim came forward on May 22nd, telling school officials she and Detweiler had inappropriate interactions for months, exchanging more than 5,000 text messages, calls, videos, and pictures, and meeting up outside of school and at Detweiler's home in Kenmore around a dozen times.
I think it's gross. I think it's really disgusting. I think there's a lot of kind of that stuff going around right now in this country, and I think it's really not okay.
This neighbor wanted to remain anonymous, but shared multiple officers showed up here looking for Detweiler.
And we didn't really know what was going on. We just heard that they were here on a search warrant trying to find someone.
According to court records, Detweiler and the victim had dinner at his home on one occasion, where he gave her several glasses of wine and made sexual advances.
To think that that's going all around in high schools, especially around here, is really gross, and it kind of freaks me out for sure.
Court documents also state Detweiler gave the student a key to his home, showed her the guns he owned, and Detweiler told her if she ever left him, he would kill himself with the guns. After the student's report, school officials reviewed the inappropriate messages on WhatsApp, placing Detweiler on leave and contacting police. Investigators later learned Detweiler fled the state, tracking him down in Cody, Wyoming.
And I'm glad they got him, because sometimes they don't. They leave and then they get to do these kind of things to women. It's sad.
Reporting in Redmond, Leanne Wynn, Como News.
Mobile County prosecutors asking a judge today to revoke the bond of a former BC Rain teacher charged with having sex with a student. The DA's office contends Charles Crawford violated the conditions of his bail by messaging a 17-year-old former student. Crawford had been under orders not to have any contact with children younger than 18. For now, he remains free. The judge agreed to hold off on a decision about his bond until next month. She's going to take up that matter at the same time as the defendant's preliminary hearing.
A teacher has been arrested at a southwest Sydney school accused of a sickening act. Let's go live to 9 News reporter Massilia Riley at Spring Farm Public School. Massilia, what can you tell us?
Pete, 30-year-old Guy Miagrossi was arrested here yesterday afternoon when a student allegedly caught him filming up the skirts of female students. Police then charged him with filming a person's private parts without consent and producing child abuse material. Now, I've spoken to a parent here today who says they only found out when their child told them yesterday that their teacher had been arrested and they had no communication from the school. The Department of Education has responded to that, saying that a letter has since been sent out to the entire school this afternoon. Now, we've also spoken to other parents and grandparents whose children were not affected by these allegations, but who say they are shocked.
Oh, it's sickening. Like you don't wish this on anybody.
I was devastated, actually, to be quite honest. So, I mean, I know things happen in society, but I'm here to pick up my granddaughter, but Christ almighty, things like this happen, it's just unbelievable.
The Department of Education says Guy Miagrossi has now been removed from teaching duties. He was refused bail in court today and will remain in custody until he fronts court again next Tuesday, Pete.
Denied bail, but Arroyo was placed on home monitoring. And we also learned that Arroyo underwent a mental health evaluation after an emergency petition was filed.
I don't know him very well.
Tell me about this.
Yeah, we speak. When we see each other, we speak. That's really about it.
In this Randallstown community, surprise and concern after learning of a neighbor's arrest. 38-year-old Carlos Arroyo, a teacher and soccer coach at Randallstown Senior High School, is accused of sexually abusing a student. A Baltimore County judge denied bail but released him on home detention. The judge would not allow him to go back to his house in Randallstown, where his two children reside with their mother. Instead, Arroyo must stay with a relative in Essex. Baltimore County Public Schools tell 11 News the district hired Arroyo nearly 2 years ago. He began working at Randallstown in August 2022. He taught social studies and coached boys varsity soccer. According to a court charging document, Baltimore County detectives received notes found inside a trash can in Arroyo's classroom. One believed written by the victim asks, "You don't think this is a lot to risk?" The response investigators think came from Arroyo. "It 100% is a risk. We can stop at any time." The court record indicates Arroyo had been giving the victim rides to the Owings Mills metro station where an alleged incident happened inside his car, and that the victim had relied on him for help at school dealing with personal and relationship issues. Randallstown High School Principal Michael Jones sent a letter to parents and staff about Arroyo's arrest. In his message, Jones wrote, "BCPS is fully cooperative."
Former Washington County high school teacher pleaded guilty to child pornography charges. Michael Dendy was arrested in January of 2023.
Dendy admitted to using fake identities online to convince teenagers to send him explicit photos and videos. Jasmine Lee spoke with one parent in Washington County about keeping children safe from predators online.
Former Washington County teacher Michael Dendy has pleaded guilty to catfishing students and posting their sexual photos.
Angry. It hurts my heart.
Crystal Lewis, a Washington County mom, says she's in disbelief that anyone can commit a crime like this one. Michael Dendy pleaded guilty to 1 count of production of child pornography and 1 count of distribution of child pornography. Michael used Instagram to catfish his students and other students into sending pornographic photos.
I'm a communicator. I want to know, hey, what's going on? Who you talking to?
And for moms like her, being aware of what your kids are doing is important.
Be more in tune with face-to-face, be more in tune with what's going on. And I feel as though that definitely makes you more aware.
Dendy was arrested in January of 2023 after Washington County Sheriff's Office received more than a dozen complaints about child pornography. Daryl Usry, patrol commander at the Washington Sheriff's Office and the father, talked about how parents can keep kids safe.
I use apps to monitor them. It monitors online activity, what they do, how long they're on there. and sends you reports to tell you what they've looked at, who they talked to.
And he says with schools starting up, parents should be extra responsible.
You just have to get to know who your kids are interacting with, keep a check on who your kids are interacting with, check their phones, check social media, follow them on social media. They have Facebook, they have Twitter, follow them so you can see what's being posted.
Now, investigators say parents should pay close attention to their kids to prevent things like this from happening. In Washington County, Jasmine Lee, 13 WMAZ News.
Dindy faces a mandatory minimum of 15 years in prison with up to a maximum sentence of 30 years for production of child pornography. He is scheduled to be sentenced November 7th in a U.S. District Court in Macon.
A Harnett County teacher is behind bars today after being charged for having sex with a student. It's a story we first brought you last month. And WRAL Sean Gallagher joins us live outside of the Harnett County Courthouse. And Sean, what else do we know about this case?
Yeah, Michelle, well, right now, Mackenzie Parham is in a jail cell here behind me in Harnett County. She's here on a $70,000 secured bond facing 7 charges, 2 of which are sexual activity with a student and 5 others for indecent liberties with a student. The 26-year-old woman worked at Triton High School from August of 2021 until this May. Her last day of employment was the same day the Harnett County Sheriff began its investigation on May 10th. Sheriff Wayne Coates posted on Facebook that Parham turned herself in today. I reached out to Harnett County Schools this morning about this. They tell me they can't comment on the situation, but they say they conducted a careful review of the information they received and made all of the required reports and took appropriate personnel action based on what they learned from their investigation. Now, Parham made her initial appearance earlier this morning, and she is expected back in a courtroom later this month. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News, Harnett County.
Let me out of here! Let me out of here!
One for a rainbow, one for Amanda.
Who you playing with, sweetie?
Amanda.
Huh? Oh, who are you?
I'm Amanda. I'm 6, and I love unicorns.
Sexual predators are seeking kids online.
We don't know Amanda.
Learn how to report abuse at end-violence.org/protect.
When a child experiences trauma, they can be stripped of their ability to imagine. But imagination is colors. All the colors. Imagination is freedom. And whatever you want it to be. But a child without imagination is not a child at all. Will you help defend our right to imagine?